Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. So I have an exciting announcement to make this video. I have recently become a member of the Helmar creative team. So Helmar produced the glues that I use all the time. So I've been spruiking them for a long while now. So it's only fitting that I'm on their creative team, which I'm so excited and a tad nervous about. So Helmar are an Australian company and they produce awesome glues, lots of different products, which I'll be showing you more of in the future. So I thought I would come on and we can muddle through doing my first project for Helmar. So I thought we'd do something a little spooky and a bit of fun today, because if all goes well, you'll be seeing this the day before Halloween. It shall be up. So we will get started. So I'll just put my glues to the side. I recently got this from Spotlight. I saw it and I thought that looks like fun to do something with. What I've done is just laid a piece of paper down here where the picture area is. It's actually a chalkboard, so you can write on the surface there, but I don't think we'll be using it like that. I thought we'll alter it a little bit. So I've just laid a piece of paper down and put some masking tape around, because I don't want to get my mediums onto that, because I think I'd like to paint the frame. So we'll see how we go doing that. Now I did have this rope that held, it was stapled on there and then stapled to this so that this leg couldn't swing the whole way out. I was going to take it apart to do the painting, but it's pretty well stapled and nailed to the frame and I don't want to pull it apart too much. So I think we'll leave it as is and just do what we can do, because we'll mostly only be seeing the front anyway. I will paint the whole lot, I think, but I'm not going to be too fussy, so we'll see how we go. So I think firstly we will put some gesso on just to prime it a bit, and I think that will help my next colour show up and stay on better. So I'll just go over with a light coat of the gesso, and I might start with the back first. So I'm just going to put some of the gesso out on this cutting board that I have here. I'll use that first so that the whole lot doesn't dry out as we go. So it's just a glass cutting board that I've got, easy to clean off. And I've just got this cheap wide brush to apply it with. So I'm just going to go over it like this. As I said, I'm not going to be too fussy with this. It's just to get a coating over it for our acrylic to stick to. So basically like that. So I'll continue on. I'm going to do all this side, then flip it over, and then do the frame and the front of all of my poles. So I've finished using my white gesso there, so I'll put that to the side to dry. The next thing I want to do is use some black gesso. So I've got these little fairy fences. I think they were in Spotlight, so I want to cover them with the black gesso. I won't be painting over them anymore because the black gesso was nice and solid on this. So I do a nice coat on the front and then just a rough coat on the back, because you won't be seeing that much. I did do a couple of fence pieces, but I only ended up using one of them. So now I've got some purple acrylic paint on my glass chopping board, and I'm just going over the whole front of my project with the purple paint. I do a couple of layers of medium. I wanted to try out my crackle paint, but in the end it didn't quite work. So a bit of work that didn't really matter in the end, but you learn from doing these things. So there you can see I've finished painting the front of my frame. Now I want to paint the back of my frame. So for the back, I'm going to use my black acrylic again here. So it just finishes the frame off nicely at the back there. Then here we go, applying some of my crackle medium. Now I don't have much. I've only ever tried this once. And I didn't try this method of it either. And I watched a whole lot of people and they were brushing it on, so I thought I would try that. Did not work. I think there were crackles, but they were very, very fine, so it wasn't sort of thick enough and that. Also, it depends on which medium you've got and all that. So back to the drawing board for me, and I will keep practicing with that. But I thought I'd show you anyway. So now I've got my black gesso again, and I just want to go over my tombstone here. It was white when I got it, as you can see. So I thought I might try some paint and crackle medium on that as well. So now the black gesso is dry and I put the crackle medium on there. I can see it's crackled where it's a bit thick and that, but it didn't work what I've seen it work for others. The idea for me was to have the bottom colour and then the crackle medium and then put a top coat on, and it would crack and you'd see the bottom colour under the top coat. So I'm mixing up a grey paint here. I've got a dark grey and I add a bit of white to make it a little bit lighter. And I use that to paint my tombstone over the top of the crackle paint. And the crackle medium is so glossy, I end up with a really glossy coat on my frame and my tombstone. But I didn't mind it in the end, so it worked out quite nicely. But because of the glossiness of it, the grey paint didn't go on evenly. And I wasn't sure whether I was going to use the tombstone or not, but I persevered and tried something with it once the paint was dry, which ended up looking all right in the end. I'm definitely not good at painting and that. I need more practice. That's why I keep trying these things. Don't know if I'll ever get better at it, but I'll keep trying. So there I am painting it on, and then, yeah, once it starts sort of drying, you should see the crackles appear, but that did not happen. And again here for my frame, I've put the crackle medium over the whole front there where I painted it purple. Now I'm adding black over the top, and I wait for it to crack, and it didn't happen. But as I said, I think there are crackles, but they're very, very fine. So definitely not thick enough. I'll come on and show you if I ever do one that I like and it works properly. And my acrylic is glossy, but the crackle medium made it extra glossy, but I actually really liked it in the end, and I don't know if having purple crackles showing through, I mean, they'd look cool, but I don't think it would have looked better for what I end up doing here. So I've got this printout of a picture of a cauldron, and I want to back that onto some cardstock to make it a bit more sturdy. And for my paper pieces here, I'm using Helmar's Professional Acid-Free Glue. I think that was one of the best glues to use with your photos and that, for scrapbooking and that sort of thing. So I just stick the cauldron down. I just rough cut it out. Put that to the side to dry. Now I can take my mask off of the blackboard bit in the frame, so I can stick my pieces down. When I removed it, there was some white edges there where paint didn't get to. So I do end up fixing that a bit later on. So I've got this beautiful digital paper from Tracy Fox here, and I just want to rip a little bit of that off to fill in the gap on my chalkboard. I thought it would go really nice with the theme. I like the look of the ripped edges. takes away from the harshness of the straight edge of the photo. So I'm just pressing it in there with my bone folder so I can find where to cut it to get it to fit. Then I use my black soot distress ink to go around the edges of my paper and my photo eventually, just to grunge them up a little bit, get rid of any of the white edges. So here I'm using a black fine tipped Sharpie pen just to go around those white edges when I took the mask off to hide them a bit. So now it's time to stick down my photo, and again I'm using my acid-free glue. I've got this glue spatula or spreader, scraper thing that Helmar sent me, and I'm using that to just spread the glue out a bit to make sure that it gets to the edges, and that it's very handy. And I use the clean end to help push the edges down as well. So it's a handy tool to have. So now I stick the paper down in the same manner. So now I can fussy cut out my cauldron. I'm cutting the little legs and that off. And I ink around the white edges again with my ink. And there is my tombstone. I'm inking around that. What I ended up doing was getting an emery board and filing over the top of it a bit. And it filed down bits where the crackle medium was thicker, and it made these nice lines in the pattern, which I quite liked. And then I used some Tim Holtz rub-ons that I have here to do the rest in peace and that on the tombstone, which I really like. So I'm inking around that. It's a massive button that I got that says boo. So I'm inking around that because it was very stark white. So I want my wood pieces and the paper to have a coat of the Crystal Coat gloss varnish. And I set up a spray box to do that in. And I just spray it from side to side to get a nice coat. And then I turn it 90 degrees and give it another spray, and then I let it dry. So now we're on to the fun part, which is sticking down all of the elements. And I have this beautiful lace here. So I'm just cutting it to length. It does have beads down the middle, and I cut the first few beads off of it because I do want to stick something else there. So for this, I'm using the 450 quick dry adhesive. I'll be using that to attach all my pieces to the front here. I've been using this glue for years, and it holds so nice and strong, and it holds lots of different items like plastics, and I've used it for seashells, metal pieces, all sorts. So I trust it to do this job. So I've got one of my little fences there. I did paint 3 of them, but I decided in the end I just wanted one of them. I'll stick that down to the front. I do hold everything for it to wait for it to dry for a little bit before I move on as well. So now I can stick down my word. I had so much fun making this. I just got some random stuff from the shop. We don't have a lot of Halloween things around here to craft with. I actually couldn't find any Halloween papers in the shop, so yes, I just grabbed what I could and made it work. So for my cauldron, I do want to lift it up off the page a bit, so I folded up a bit of my scrap black cardstock to stick that to the back of the cauldron to do that. So I'm just sticking the folded up pieces to the cauldron, and then I can stick it onto my paper afterwards. So I realised once I've stuck them both down that I did want to cut a slit into the top of my cauldron, just where I've placed one of these pieces. So when I realised that, I rip it back off before the glue dried completely. Fortunately, I didn't ruin anything. So here I'm just taking it off. I'll get my cutting mat and my knife so that I can cut my little slit in there. It's always something I forget to do. Then I ink a little bit just to try and get rid of some of the white that you might see. So I have this, it's like cotton wool. I got it a few years ago with some spiders or something, so I think it's meant to be like spider web. And I want to push that down into the slit so it looks like it's coming up out of the cauldron, like smoke. You can see it there poking out the back. And then I can stick my little bit of cardboard over the top of that, and that helps hold the cotton wool in there as well. That cotton wool sticks to everything, every little rough bit of skin, everything. I was forever having to pull it off of everything. So I get a little bit more of it that I want to put underneath the cauldron as smoke or fire or whatever. I really like the way that turned out in the end. So I'm using the Tacky Craft glue for this, which I have in that little applicator bottle. It's a fine tip applicator. It's a great glue to put in one of those. Good all-round glue. I use it all the time in my journals. Also, it dries clear, so I just wanted a little bit on to hold the cotton on there, but I didn't want to saturate it. I still want the, I want it to buff up still, so now I can stick my cauldron down. So I just apply the glue to the cardboard folded up pieces. Stick it down so it's got a bit of dimension there. Just tiny bit of glue to hold the smoke in place. So I have this netting, which is a bag that one of the plastic Halloween pieces came in, and I decided to put that on the corner like spider web. I did buy all of this spider web stuff and lost it. I don't know where it got to. I was very upset about that, and then I was unpacking all the bits and pieces that I want to use on this project and realised that one of them was stored in that bag, and I thought, oh great, there's some spider web for me. So just using the 450 to stick that. I just want to stick it on the side and the back so that we don't see the glue at the front. I've put the rest of that bag away in my little Halloween tub for when I'm needing spider web again. And of course, with your spider web, you need your spider. So I've got one of the plastic or rubber spiders that I picked up. I just went to the local Spotlight here and saw what they had. It was slim pickings, so that's what we've got. But I really love it. It was so much fun making this. So I stick some glue mainly to his head and that to stick him down there. But I realised afterwards that some of his abdomen is touching as well. So just to make it a bit more sturdy, I will stick a bit more glue down the bottom there as well. Hold him down for a while and he stuck quite nicely. So now I want to put the tombstone on, and I did find some skeletons. I was going to hang one of them off the edge, but it was a bit of overkill, pardon the pun. So I thought I'd just break one of his arms off and stick that coming out from underneath the tombstone. So again, we need to raise the tombstone away from the frame a bit, so I folded up some more black cardstock to do that with. I don't really get into the whole Halloween or Christmas or anything, but I tell you what, the crafting is so much fun. So I rolled 2 pieces of the black cardstock to put on the bottom there to raise it up enough to fit the arm underneath. So I'll just stick that on now, and then we can stick our arm down and position our tombstone. So I just got to figure out my placement there. It's a bit bulky where I broke the arm off, so I just use my clippers to snip a bit more of the bone off. Now put the tombstone over the top. Then I've got this huge bat, so I decided to stick him on. It's a bit rough underneath, so I wanted to make sure I got some of the glue on the flatter wing pieces as well. And I think they're the main pieces that ended up sticking to the frame. I was arguing whether I put him on or not, and then I thought, oh, why not just go for it? So now I have this flower. It's one of the ones you use for hat making. I took it apart, took a lot the petals off, and I've just got 2 levels of petals on there. I had to put the little stamen bits back in there, which was really fiddly. So I stuck a bit of cardstock to the back just to hold them on there, and it gives me a nice surface to stick the flower to the frame, or to the bat's wing really there. I do apply glue to some of the petal as well as the cardstock to make sure it all stays down. And then the last piece I want to stick on is this snake. I've got bat and spider, I might as well have a snake. So just applying glue along the length of him. So now I've got to attach some of this chunky black chain that I found. So I've got some cup hooks there and I'm just screwing one of those into the base of the frame. The cup hooks were real bright silver, so I coloured in the bits that we're going to see with Sharpie marker. Just using my pliers to finish screwing it in. Scraping some of the bits of wood off around it before I finish screwing it tightly. Checking that my chain fits. And then I've got to figure out where to put the other cup hook. So just close it and sort of figure out where it's going to match up with the other one. Just putting a little mark to remind me. I try screwing in that cup hook and it doesn't want to go in, so I get my little hand drill and just drill a pilot hole for it. And it goes in much easier. And then I measure some of the chain up against the rope bit that I took off of the legs to figure out the length that I'll need. And I grab my pliers to take it apart. Fortunately, it looks really chunky and strong, but it's actually quite light. So I was able to get the chain apart quite easily, which was good. So it's just a second-hand chain that I got from the second-hand stores sometime. And then I add the chain and it's really too long. It's like, whoops. So I end up shortening it. And it's much better now. So here is my finished altered spooky Halloween frame. Now the photo that is in there is of a dear loved one, a family member and her friends. Yes, I do come from a family of witches. So absolutely love that photo, and I remembered it and I thought, oh, that might be really cool to use for a Halloween theme. So that was so much fun adding that. Yeah, and I just bought a whole lot of stuff from Spotlight and Woolworths that was hanging around, all this rubber fun stuff. Very different from the things I usually make, but it's good to get out of your comfort zone and try something different. So much fun it was. So the glues that I used this time, well, I used the Crystal Coat Gloss Varnish just to protect the paper and the wood pieces. Makes them a bit easier to clean and that. And the Tacky Craft glue, great for sticking down a lot of things, but I love using it for the papers and fine little details. Also the 450 quick dry adhesive for the heavier things that I put on here, the embellishments, and the acid-free glue, especially for the photo and that sort of thing. So massive thank you to Helmar for their awesome products and the great opportunity as well. I really appreciate that. The link to Helmar's shop and their social media is down below. Go and check them out. There's also a link to the creative team's blog. There's a lot of other very talented ladies, and we do blogs each month on the projects that we make. All sorts of different things, mixed media, scrapbooking, lots of different bits and pieces. So heaps and heaps of fun. Yeah, so this just opens up like that. And when I want to put it away each year, I could unscrew the cup hooks as well and take the chain off so that it folds down properly. But I love it. So much fun. I don't usually decorate the house for Halloween or anything, but I've got a few projects that I've done now for Halloween, and I try and personalise them with bits that I like. So I might just have to decorate from now on, mightn't I? So loads and loads of fun. So take care of yourselves, be good, and have a spooktacular Halloween. Bye.